People talk to me about sexual transmutation, Joseph. How do I take the energy that I have cultivated as a consequence of what I should naturally have in my life and put it to some use? There is no time to be sexually frustrated. There is no time to be stagnant. If that is the case, you're clearly not training hard enough. So I'm going to take you through a little workout I did this morning, a pool workout. Apologies for all the pool stuff, guys, but I'm going to get to some chest and some legs a little bit later on in the week. But as always, I typically do warm up with some kind of pull-up variation. 10 pull-ups for a guy, I think, is a minimum. I think if this is something that you struggle with, this is one of these kind of fundamental exercises in your arsenal that you should be able to execute on very, very efficiently. If you can't, then this is a very big issue. Good for the arms, good for warming up the lats and putting your position to execute on some of your rowing movements with a little bit more vigor and a little bit more intensity. I believe if you're going to say top exercises, top 10, top 5, you can't have a conversation about that and not include some kind of pull-up variation. I segued very quickly onto trying to make a row on the Smith machine. Now I know people say, "Oh, Joseph, Smith machine is terrible." No machine's terrible. Your utility of the machine is terrible, and this is an example of how I tried and failed to make this particular exercise useful. So you have to think about intention when you're exercising. My intention here was really to activate the latissimus dorsi. I want to build that big shield at the back. I want to build that cobra. And here, you can see I've got a kind of a false grip here. I'm pulling into the pinky aspects of my hands. I'm using my hands for hooks. And I'm really trying to flush as much blood as I can into the latissimus dorsi. Just warming up here. But I wasn't really getting the correct angle. And now I'll tell you what I mean by being an intelligent exercise executor in just a moment here. So I did smack some weight onto it, fairly modest weight. This Smith machine actually in particular, the bar weighs quite a lot. It's not a 0 kg. I know some of the Americans use pounds bar. But you can see my torso is higher than 45 degrees. It's an upright row. This is not a bent over row. So I'm getting more traps here. And this is not my objective at this point. Now you have to reconcile, you have to recognize that in order for you to build a optimal physique, you have to be intelligent and compromise on exercises when you're not really getting the results that you want. So I had to throw it away. After 2 sets, I was like, I'm just not getting the angle here. So I traded over to single arm rows here. Now, the angle on this isn't great. I do move it around in just a moment. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because you need to have an understanding of where you're moving in the right direction with an exercise and where you can change attributes of it to make it more beneficial to you. So I am strapping up here. Always better to strap up, gentlemen. Because again, I'm not really concerned with my grip here. I'm concerned if my grip does give out, but I'm really trying to target the lat muscle. I'll show you a different angle in the moment here, but I'm really trying to get that stretch on the eccentric of the negative aspect of the row here. I'm aiming for about 12 repetitions. Volume is really important in terms of muscle growth. I'm trying to fatigue the muscle here. Strength, I'm not really concerned about. If I was concerned with strength, then I would go over to something like a Penlay row, which is a barbell row from a dead stop start, which I'll share in some later videos if any of you are interested in building power, explosive power in the back muscles. But this isn't my focus today. I'm concerning with putting as much blood as I can in the latissimus dorsi and creating more density and more tissue growth in that kind of area here. So you've got a great view of my arse here, guys. And again, I'm just rowing into that lower area. Now, this isn't a great angle, but I will switch this over because I recognized at this point I'm getting a good position with my torso. My torso is parallel to the ground here, which is great for activating the lats, but I can go even better here. So this is an opportunity for you to be a little bit more intelligent with your decision makings here and actually understand, well, okay, parallel is good, but if I can get more than parallel, so if you can think with your torsos here, if I can go more than parallel, I can get a greater stretch on my lats. If I have greater stretch on my lats, I have greater range of motion. If I have greater range of motion, I have more activation of the lat. So you can kind of see here, I'm not so much parallel, but a little bit lower than parallel. And this way, I'm really getting that long stretch. I'm trying to throw that dumbbell, not down, but also forward as well in a controlled motion as much as I can. So you can see it better on the left-hand side here. Again, I'm not concerned with the grip. I'm concerned, my objective here, people can talk about, form and, weak grip strength. My grip strength is fine, but that's not my concern here. My concern is latissimus dorsi growth. That is my objective here. So look, my head's almost on the bench here. I'm trying to throw that arm forward. I'm throwing the arm forward and I'm trying to stretch that lat out as much as I can and then drive back with the elbow to get the contraction. So I'm really trying to exaggerate that range of motion as much as I can. That is my objective here. Be intentional with your movement patterns, guys. And then I have one more version of this just from a different angle, I believe, and where I'm really trying to, again, exaggerate that negative aspect. All the repetitions here, I think I did about four or five sets of this. I think I lowered the weight at one point as well because I was primarily concerned with the lengthening and the contraction of that muscle here. So again, I'm trying to throw that arm. I can throw that arm probably a bit more forward. A great example you can think about, or a great reference point for this movement, is think about a single arm lat pull down. So when you're on the lat pull down and you're doing this kind of motion, I'm trying to emulate that just from a different angle. And I'm putting my mind in my muscle there. So I won't show you the other side because again, it's you've seen it before. And then I transitioned onto biceps. Now, I didn't record all the exercises I went through today, guys, but this was probably the 6th or 7th exercise that I did this morning. And this is what I'm talking about when I prefaced that, if you're feeling stagnant, if you feel, jittery, it's because you're not training hard enough. You're not training with enough intensity, and you're not training, not just physical intensity, but mental intensity as well. You have to put your mind in these exercises here. And at this point I was fatigued, so I did, I think, recuperate some music inspiration here to try to get me over the line at this part. But most often than not, I don't use headphones when I'm working out because I'm trying to connect with my muscles here. This is just a very simple alternate dumbbell row. I'm really focusing on the supination of the grip here because that activates the longer head on the bicep, I believe, which gives you that kind of the peak a lot of men are looking for on the lateral part of your arm and where that bicep vein is coming in. So that's all supination. And I'm varying it between alternate and dual contractions here. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to lengthen that contraction, keeping my humerus, what would you say, parallel to my body. I'm not bringing the elbow back. I'm keeping the elbow as close as I can to my side and allowing it to lengthen this way. One of my favorite exercises for developing peaks. And I actually have a better one. I haven't seen anybody do this kind of exercise before, but it's one of my personal favorites that I've done for a very, very, very long time. And it's a variation of the concentration curl in a lunged position. So what I will do is get into a lunge position, one leg forward, and I'm not really resting my elbow against my leg, but I'm just using it as a guidance point for where I don't want my humerus to go. So you can see that elbow is in a fixed position here. It's not coming back. I'm trying to fix it in place and purely allow the biceps to work. I'm trying to minimize the involvement of my anterior delt because the delt can come into play when the bicep starts to fatigue. But I'm really allowing that lengthening process to happen. On the other side, you'll kind of see here probably a little bit better again. I'm not directly resting my elbow again. I'm using again my hand to just support that lengthening process of my humerus. That is the most important part to me. This is an excellent finisher exercise. You don't need to throw a lot of weight on this. This is a concentration curl. Guys, the bicep is not a big muscle. I'm also adding a little bit of extra supination at the end to really flush as much blood as I can into the short head of the bicep. So what I would do, definitely experiment with this and try different weights. Start again with a light weight. It doesn't take a lot to get the results you want. 12 to 20 repetitions is a good marker for this kind of exercise. And I threw in a little treat at the end, practicing a little bit of calisthenics handstands. You know, not the muscle groups that I'm using here. But I think it's important to still approach exercise and physical pursuits with a sense of whimsy and playfulness, in that, you know, you don't have to be this meathead bodybuilder who's just concerned with building as much muscles as possible, but physical function as well. Flexibility is an area I'm trying to get a little bit more proficient in. I think I'll add into the equation things like L-sits, abdominals is an area that's very weak of mine that I want to bring up, and perhaps even some Olympic lifts like snatching, clean and pressing is certainly on my agenda. I think a lot of men fail to see the progress they would like because they fall prey to the what would you say, the systems that they've developed over a long time that have, you know, maybe given them results in the past, but again, the body doesn't respond to comfort. And if you're not changing up your training parameters, you will stay the same. Your body will not change because you haven't given a reason to change. So give it a reason to change by adding something else. It sucks doing an exercise that you're not good at, but you're only going to get more muscle growth and more physical development when you do the exercises that you fucking hate. And, you know, some of the ones in there, I do not like single arm rows. They're horrible. Once you do 12 for one side, you think, fuck, now I have to do the other one. I do not like them as an exercise. But there aren't many exercises that isolate one part of the lat. That there's an argument to be made that the single arm row, bent over row, is optimal for that kind of what would you say, stressor on the muscle. So gentlemen, really important to take a lot of these insights into the equations in terms of how you're training, in terms of intelligence, and being humble enough to recognize when an exercise isn't working for you and changing it, changing different aspects of the exercise. It might be the position, it might be the weight, it might be the grip, it might be the tempo, it might be the whole exercise you need to throw away. I threw away that Smith machine exercise because it just wasn't giving me the results that I want. But I don't believe it's because of the nature of the Smith machine. There is a way to certainly use it intelligently, and I just need to find that way. And once I find that way, I'll perhaps present that in a way that's more palatable for everybody here. But gentlemen, I hope you understand the sentiment from which it proceeds. Go into these things with intelligence, intensity, and your mind and body will obey you for the rest of the day. And those are not theories, those are facts. Speak soon.